Hello! For 50 days, Ryan Trahan and his wife Haley will be going to all of the 50 states in America, and I will be joining in, sort of, and reading a book that happens in each state that they are going to. Today, Ryan and Haley went to Alabama. Every time I think of that song, it reminds me of the opening of Despicable Me, which isn't in Alabama, but it plays the song and there's an inflatable pyramid and it's a good time. The Airbnb today that Ryan and Haley went to was so cool. It was like a mini castle, and Ryan took Haley to a really cute bookshop, which I thought was awesome. When we watched the video today, Hallie said that my jaw dropped at the same moment that Haley's jaw dropped when Ryan said that he was taking her to a bookstore, which makes this video feel like it's especially for book girlies because they went to a bookshop. I'm talking about books, of course, and the person that this book for today is about also loved books. The book for Alabama that I started last night and finished just a few minutes ago is The Story of My Life by Helen Keller. Where to start? Okay, so when I was looking at all of the states, you know, I gave my mom a list of the states I didn't have books for, and Alabama was one of them. And after some researching and stuff, or I actually don't remember exactly how she came about realizing this, but she said that Helen Keller is from Alabama. And I was like, what? I had no idea. And I have two books about Helen Keller. This one more so. This one's about her teacher, Anne Sullivan. So this one happens in Alabama more. For those of you that are new here or might not know, I love sign language, as the shirt kind of hints at. I have an associate's degree in American Sign Language Interpreting, and I've got an entire sign language YouTube channel. I'm also working on interpreting these reading vlogs into sign language. A little behind on that, but I'm working on it. So I was super excited to read Helen Keller's book for the first time for this challenge. So excited, and I loved it. Got all the way through it in basically a day. What was also fun about this was that today my mom, sister, and I went to more free little libraries, as we love to do. And I knew that I needed to finish this today for the challenge since Ryan and Haley went to Alabama today. And I get car sick really easy in the car, so I knew I couldn't read it in the car. And I don't have it as an audiobook, but Hallie does not get car sick in the car. So she was willing and able to read this book for me. Not all of it. She read a decent amount, but it was just so nice to hear her read it for me, and that my mom got to listen to it with us was super fun. Then I finished it when we got home. Before I get into some of my favorite parts about the book, I thought that I would mention a specific Alabama or the southern states of America kind of fun fact tidbit thing. At some point in the story, muscadines were mentioned. I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm not 100% sure. I actually only heard about or found out about muscadines just a few days ago when I finished the book I selected for Arkansas, because muscadines were talked about in this. It was actually a really pretty prominent part of the story. I had never heard of or known about them before, so just a few days ago I learned about muscadines, and then they're talked about in this book as well. So that was kind of a fun, like, oh hey, Alabama has that, Arkansas has that. That was fun. One of my favorite things about the book overall is, and it's gonna sound kind of funny, seeing the world through Helen's eyes, which I know obviously she's blind, she couldn't see, I know. But the way that she describes how she experienced things and her memories, the way she learned, and just all of that was so fascinating. Like, there was one part towards the end when she talked about how noisy city life is, and then she remarked that a lot of her hearing or sighted friends are like, how do you know that the city is noisy, or how does that like affect you? And so then she went on to explain how she can really feel like the vibrations of everything and just the general bustle of being in the city and the lack of the sun and the smell and the odors and just all these different things that she pointed out that she was like, most hearing or sighted people might not notice all these things that bother me because they are distracted with what they're seeing and hearing. Her heightened sense of touch and smell was really fascinating to read about. I mentioned this in the other video, but I also loved that at the start of the book they have this little Braille alphabet. It's not actually embossed risen, it's definitely for sighted people, but it was really cool to see. What was also cool is that the chapters were all marked with their numbers, since we have 13 right there. And another thing that I learned about Braille that I didn't know or consider before was that when Helen was talking about how much she loved reading books, she mentioned that one of her favorite books as a kid, she read so much, you know, it was in Braille, right? She read it so much that the raised print got wore down that she could barely make out the words anymore. And I thought that was just really wild. In my mind, I thought, you know, how crazy would it be if the more you read a book with your eyes, the more the words faded away. I thought that was just a really fascinating thing. And there are a lot of other things like that in here. I'm also a fan of watching Molly Burke. Her YouTube channel picture I'll try to put here. Thank you, editors. She's a blind YouTuber and she often makes a lot of videos about accessibility type things and what it's like being a blind person and all that kind of stuff. And reading this reminded me of that sometimes, which I thought was really cool. If you guys are familiar with Helen Keller's story at all, I'm pretty sure you know of the water thing. That when Miss Sullivan was trying to teach Helen words and that objects have words and names associated with them, the big breakthrough for Helen in understanding that was water. She felt water and then Miss Sullivan fingerspelled water to her and then she realized water is water. And it was a huge breakthrough for Helen. A story in here that I didn't know about was a big breakthrough in her understanding of abstract thought. I know a bit about abstract thought conceptually because of the studies I did for interpreting. When I first heard abstract thought explained, my mind was blown. A big part of abstract thought that I always found fascinating was that because ASL, sign language, is a visual language, abstract thought is kind of difficult to convey because it's not visual, it's not tangible. I've also read some things about how Japanese kanji and the Chinese characters are really visual, and the way that some characters convey abstract thought is also really fascinating. So reading about Helen's breakthrough in starting to understand what abstract thought is was super cool. I feel like this is another book in a series that I have started. I have started so many series in this challenge that by the end of this, I feel like I'm gonna have another 50 books on my to-read list. I say this feels like a series because this book about Anne Sullivan, her teacher, I so want to read. I think it takes place in Connecticut or Massachusetts or New York, somewhere in there. I'll have to ask my mom again later. But I already have books for those covered. Well, not Connecticut, but I have a book in mind that I would really like to read for Connecticut. So I probably won't be reading this for this challenge, and I'm bummed. I loved hearing about Anne Sullivan in Helen's book. There's so many miracles that can be talked about in Helen's story, but can we talk about the miracle of Anne Sullivan not getting carpal tunnel? The amount of finger spelling that she did is insanity. Like, there were so many times I was reading this book and I was like, she finger spelled all of that in that amount of time. And her hand still functions. I mean, my mind was properly blown. Like, that's a miracle right there, the amount of finger spelling that she did. I mean, it's like after one 3-hour class in college of signing, my hands would be on the sore side. And this woman, I mean, the amount of finger spelling, I cannot properly convey to you guys just how much finger spelling she did. And that she would finger spell books to Helen, like that was a way that she would like read to Helen, would be just finger spelling the whole book. And just out of curiosity, when I was reading one of the chapters, I started to fingerspell while I was reading it, and I mean, I got overwhelmed with the thought of the amount of letters that she must have fingerspelled in such short periods of time. It is wild. I also really enjoyed hearing Helen talk about how much she loves reading books. She was such a bookworm. One of her favorite books that I actually recognized was Little Women, which I have yet to read. That is one of the classics, one of the many classics that I want to get to reading, but it was really cool to see that she liked that one. There were a few other books that I recognized, like Robinson Crusoe and Pilgrim's Progress, Mark Twain's books, other ones I can't think of off the top of my head that I haven't read but I know of, or even have. It sort of reminded me of an 1800s version of John Luke Robertson's Young and Beardless that I talked about in the Louisiana video for this series. It also reminded me of C.S. Lewis's The Four Loves, I think it was that one, where he made a lot of references to different plays or books that I am in no way familiar with. And I was a bit lost sometimes in reading that book of C.S. Lewis's because I was just like, I don't know what reference you're making here. The latter few chapters of this book kind of had some of those vibes because she was going over a lot of plays and books that she likes and making references to those things, and I'm just like, I don't know what they are. But if you're a fan of classic literature, I'm sure that you would have understood all of the references that she made. And wow, her vocabulary was crazy. Reading this, I feel like my IQ got raised just a little bit. My vocabulary lexicon certainly increased. I believe that is all my thoughts on the Alabama book. Now for the reading strategy. In the video today, Ryan gave us a bit of a hint, just a very, very small hint, that tomorrow they have a very long drive. And knowing that they're in Alabama, like around here-ish, I'm thinking, how long of a drive could y'all have? Like, Georgia's right there, and so is Florida. But then I thought, well, if they're going to Orlando, or another part of Florida that's a bit farther away than this little bit right there, it would be a long drive. I also considered that they might go to Tennessee. I think that would be kind of out of the way, but if you've been watching my videos, you know I have been wrong quite a few times. So, just thinking about the surrounding states, Tennessee, I've already read a book for. Georgia, I've already read a book for. And Florida, I have already read a book for. So we're good, we're fine, we're looking great. Today, I did start listening to an audiobook that takes place in West Virginia. I still have a lot of pages to read for my Pennsylvania and one of the Dakota books. So I'll probably just keep working on those. And that's it for the reading strategy. Pretty easy when all the surrounding states are covered. I wanted to make more Shrek references in this video since Ryan made so many Shrek references in his video today, being in like a fantasy land Airbnb kind of thing, but I couldn't come up with more than asking you guys right now to comment down below if you know the Muffin Man who lives on Drury Lane. That's all I got, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure how to fit in, "What are you doing in my swamp?" But I had it in mind this whole time to try to fit it in somewhere, and I couldn't figure it out. That is all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down below if you're watching Ryan's series and what your favorite Airbnb is so far, and comment what you are currently reading. I would love to talk book stuff in the comments, and I will see you guys in the land far, far away of tomorrow. Had to try. Bye.